Hello and welcome to a very special quick shot review. I'm your host Luke. You on Cheap Shot Nation. Can you hear that? Sounds like the encroaching impending doom of the end of 2020. It must be Friday the 13th. Hold on a second. What are you doing here?
You rang?
You know you don't show up until the sequel, right?
Well, you played my music and did the kill thing.
You don't even get your hockey mask until the third one.
Oh. Yeah, that's right. Oh well, my bad. See ya.
Well, now that's sorted, let's crack on with the review. It's Friday the 13th. Let's review Friday the 13th from 1980. So, the original Friday the 13th was released in 1980 and it was directed by Sean S. Cunningham to a massive fan base. Excuse me. And it's gained cult status for what it achieved back in 1980 and also the ending, which many people seem to remember over anything else in the film. A group of camp counsellors are stalked by a murderer. Who is the murderer? Answers on the postcard. They're stalked by a murderer, an unknown assailant, and as they reopen the summer camp known only as Camp Crystal Lake, which you can tour around every so often, which is really cool. So the killer is seeking revenge for a child's drowning back in the 50s. In fact, we start the film in the 1950s where we see that stuff happen, and the grisly double murder years before, and so we start the film. So Friday the 13th is an absolute classic, and I thought I'd mix in some classic horrors from the 70s and 80s into my quick shot reviews, much like I did with the 31 Days of Horror during October. Check those out on Cheap Shot blog, link in the description. Yeah, absolute legendary status, and it just gets worse and worse and worse as we go along in the franchise. But the first one, the second one is definitely serviceable as well. The third one is brilliant, and then the fourth is where it starts getting downhill afterwards. Don't mean to say I hate any of the other Friday the 13th films, and for what it's worth, I quite liked the Jared Padalecki one from 2009, as I saw that with my good buddy Mike in the cinema as we were at university at the time. So we all know the story: a mother's revenge for her child who was drowned due to lack of care, due care and attention. And we know in 2020 that would cause a massive row. Of course it should have done back in the day, but obviously it was the 1950s. Things were slightly different. So yeah, definitely a popcorn flick, this one. Definitely started my love of horror movies and all things horror, along with the film that came out just after it, which was A Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember watching these way before I probably should have. I was a bit young to be watching them, but hey, if it gets my love of horror going, and it's basically the bread and butter of this channel now. There are some little bits here and there, but mostly it's horror. Maybe I should just call this cheap shot horror, I don't know, but it's such a good film. Obviously it stars Betsy Palmer, although we don't see Betsy Palmer until later on. Classic performance from her, and the idea that a classically trained actress who's been, nominated for Academy Awards would come and do a Friday the 13th slasher movie. In fact, the story goes that she didn't really want to do it, but she did it anyway, and she had a lot of fun doing so. Of course, we don't see her again. It then goes to the famous protagonist, antagonist, whatever you want to call him, of Jason, and from there it's never looks back, apart from one movie, which was Mexican Jason in number 5. So it's even got Kevin Bacon in it. Golden Globe winner Kevin Bacon of Tremors fame, if you want to check out that review on the channel as well. But we know across the board that the acting is going to be terrible, apart from Betsy Palmer, of course. But that's what drives an 80s horror movie slasher, for what it's worth, and it is very much worth watching this one. If you are a horror fan, then this one is definitely going to be on your bucket list of things to watch. My rating for this one is definitely watch it, because even if you don't like it, you'll appreciate the score, the low shots of the low shots of the ground, and the kill scenes, and Kevin Bacon. Did I mention Kevin Bacon? And of course it's the 80s. There's going to be other things in there that might float your boat. The only thing that I didn't really like was there's one scene where they do actually kill a snake. It was 1980. It was low budget. I'm not defending it by any means, but there you go. Obviously things have changed for the better there as well. Absolute classic. Then go on to number 2, which is just Friday the 13th Part 2, and that came out in, hold on a second, I'm going to go through all of them now. There's a bit of a traversing rather of the series. That came out in 1981, and in 1982 we got number 3, which was in the height of the 3D craze in the 1980s that didn't come back, thank goodness, until very, very recently. We got the final chapter, which of course wasn't the final chapter. That was number 4 in 1984. You can see a little bit of a pattern here. 1985 we got Mexican Jason in Jason 5, but it turned out to be not Jason. Bit of a weird one, that, but I'd quite like it again and watch this with my good buddy Mike, and we both laughed our heads off at Part 5, which was really fun. Jason Lives came out in 1986, and then we got a 2-year break. Amazing. 1988 we see The New Blood, so it's an attempt to restart the franchise from there, and then it just went down the toilet, because we got Jason Takes Manhattan, whereby he spends most of his time on a boat. And I seem to remember watching this one, I'm really liking it actually, just because it's so campy and 80s and just really fun. That came out in 1989, so we're on the cusp of the 90s here now. 1989, Jason Takes Manhattan, that is number 8. Doesn't spend much time in Manhattan. They ran out of budget just getting the license to go to Manhattan, but other than that, if they managed to get some shots of Manhattan, that would have been absolutely brilliant. Imagine Jason Voorhees tearing around Manhattan and around New York, and people just not giving a crap because it's New York, and just wanting, well, they wouldn't taking selfies, but they might have a Polaroid or something. Jason Goes to Hell. I seem to remember this one as the one that was teasing the cross collaboration between Jason and Freddy Krueger, which again we wouldn't see until later on. And of course Jason X, which came out in 2001. Sorry, Jason Goes to Hell was 1993 and Jason X was 2001. And the ratings go down and down and down right to that point. Of course, we did get Freddy vs. Jason, that was in 2003. The new franchise version of Friday the 13th with Jared Padalecki came out in 2009, and I do quite like it. It's for the new generation. Luckily they didn't go with the 3D thing, the craze that was at the time, and I think that's it. So we didn't get another Friday the 13th, and it's just been in development limbo since. I know there's talk about getting another Friday the 13th at some point. We'll see what happens, shall we? Anyway, happy Friday the 13th. You've been watching Cheap Shot Entertainment. You've been watching quick shot reviews, and not so quick review of the Friday the 13th. And then a run through and retrospective of the rest of the series. I'm going to go and watch some Friday the 13th now. Lo and behold, of course that's what I'm going to do. It's Friday the 13th as I'm recording this. You are the Cheap Shot Nation. Keep it locked right here on Quick Shot Reviews for more movie reviews where that came from. And I will see you next time. Happy Friday the 13th.